Movie review of Embryo, 1976. Overview. Embryo is a 1976 science fiction horror film directed by Ralph Nelson, exploring themes of human manipulation and the moral dilemmas of creating life. The movie centers on a scientist's controversial experiment to artificially accelerate the growth of an unborn fetus into a fully grown adult. With its dark narrative and Frankenstein-esque themes, Embryo is a unique take on the ethics of scientific experimentation. Plot breakdown. Dr. Paul Holliston, Rock Hudson, is a brilliant and ambitious scientist who stumbles upon an unconventional experiment that could revolutionize the possibilities of human life. After a tragic event involving a mother who commits suicide, Holliston is able to obtain the fetus from the mother's body and take it to his lab. Using his groundbreaking technology, he accelerates the fetus's growth at an alarming rate, eventually bringing the unborn child to full adulthood in just a matter of days. This woman, whom he names Victoria, Barbara Carrera, grows physically into an adult, but her mind remains that of an infant, and she must be raised and taught to become an adult, with all the challenges that come with that. As the film progresses, Victoria's mind begins to rapidly develop, learning and adapting at an astonishing rate. She matures emotionally and intellectually, but as she becomes more aware of her situation, she also begins to question her identity and the ethics behind her creation. The film explores the complex dynamics between Paul and Victoria, as he raises her as both a scientific subject and a parental figure, all while struggling with the moral implications of his actions. Characters. Dr. Paul Holliston, Rock Hudson. Paul is a driven, intelligent man who is consumed by his desire to push the boundaries of science. His creation of Victoria comes from a place of scientific curiosity and grief, but as the consequences of his actions unfold, he becomes torn between his paternal affection for Victoria and his realization that he's played God. Rock Hudson's portrayal of Dr. Holliston offers a compelling mix of passion, guilt, and desperation, making him a complex and empathetic character. Known for his roles in classic films like Giant and Pillow Talk, Hudson brings depth to a character grappling with the consequences of his own ambition. Victoria. Victoria, played by Barbara Carrera, is the grown woman with the mind of a child. While she is physically an adult, her mental and emotional development is initially stunted. As the experiment progresses, she learns rapidly and becomes more aware of herself and her surroundings. Carrera delivers a nuanced performance that balances innocence with a growing sense of awareness and danger. As Victoria matures, she faces the struggles of understanding her origins and the complexity of her existence. Carrera was a talented actress known for her role in Never Say Never Again, 1983, and her portrayal of Victoria is both haunting and heartbreaking. Themes: the ethics of scientific experimentation. The movie raises important questions about the morality of human experimentation. Paul's desire to control life through the creation of Victoria comes at a significant ethical cost, and the film forces viewers to consider the consequences of manipulating human life, even with good intentions. Like Frankenstein, the film critiques the arrogance of believing that science can transcend natural boundaries, often with disastrous results. Parenting and control. Paul's relationship with Victoria mirrors the struggle of any parent, but with an added layer of complexity. As both creator and caretaker, Paul's responsibility for her growth is immense. He raises her, teaches her, and provides for her, but his control over her development ultimately leads to unforeseen emotional consequences. The theme of control, both in terms of physical growth and mental development, runs deeply throughout the film, underscoring the ethical dilemmas of playing God. Identity and self-discovery. Victoria's rapid intellectual growth leads to a complex journey of self-discovery. As she matures physically and mentally, she becomes more aware of her origins and her existence. The film poses questions about what it means to be human when your identity is artificially constructed, and whether someone who has been created in such a way can ever truly be considered a person with autonomy. Victoria's struggles with her own identity and the search for meaning reflect the fundamental human desire for self-understanding. The dangers of playing God. Much like Poor Things, Embryo explores the theme of scientists attempting to play God. Paul Holliston's experiment of accelerating Victoria's growth illustrates the hubris involved in trying to control nature. As Victoria's mind matures, she begins to experience the complex emotional and intellectual consequences of being thrust into an adult body without the natural progression of growth. The film critiques the cost of attempting to create life without considering the broader implications. Comparison with Poor Things, 2023. Embryo shares several thematic similarities with Poor Things. Both films revolve around the idea of a scientist playing God by reanimating life and the ethical consequences that follow. In Embryo, Paul Holliston creates Victoria by accelerating the growth of an unborn fetus, while in Poor Things, Dr. Godwin Baxter brings Bella back to life by using the brain of a fetus and transplanting it into a reanimated adult body. Both films explore the moral and emotional ramifications of such experiments, focusing on the identity crises that the reanimated characters face as they navigate their new lives. The concept of control is central in both films. In Embryo, Paul raises Victoria as both a scientific experiment and a parental figure, while in Poor Things, Dr. Baxter treats Bella as a subject of his experiment, though their relationship has more elements of affection and less control as she grows. In both movies, the characters struggle with their sense of identity and agency, as they are literally and figuratively trapped in bodies that were not designed for them. However, the tone of the two films is different. Poor Things has a surreal and darkly comedic edge, with elements of absurdity and humor that contrast with the darker, more tragic nature of Embryo. Embryo is a much more somber film, focusing on the psychological and emotional toll of creating life in a laboratory, while Poor Things balances its darker themes with absurd humor, creating a more fantastical atmosphere. Final thoughts. Embryo is an underappreciated gem that blends science fiction with moral inquiry. It's a film that examines the complexities of scientific experimentation and the ethical dilemmas that arise from attempting to control life. The performances, particularly from Rock Hudson and Barbara Carrera, bring the film's thought-provoking themes to life. While it may not be as well known as other films in the genre, Embryo is a compelling exploration of the Frankenstein myth, raising timeless questions about the dangers of playing God and the consequences of creating life outside the bounds of nature. When compared to Poor Things, Embryo stands out as a darker, more introspective take on similar themes. Both films grapple with the idea of life and creation, but Embryo is more grounded in tragedy, while Poor Things leans into dark humor and absurdity. Both, however, offer poignant reflections on what it means to be human and the consequences of scientific experimentation gone awry.